You might think cruise carry-on rules are simple. No banned items, no big liquids, and you're good to go. But that version of cruising is already outdated. In 2026, people are being flagged, pulled aside, and delayed at cruise terminals for reasons that aren't clearly posted anywhere. And in many cases, the items aren't even banned. What's changed isn't always the rule, it's the enforcement. Cruise ports are working more closely with terminal security, safety teams, and local authorities, and that means your carry-on is being judged differently than it was even a year ago. Bags that sailed through before are now getting stopped, sometimes because they're too heavy, sometimes because of what's inside, and sometimes simply because they raise a safety flag. And the worst part? Most cruisers don't realize what went wrong until they're already holding up the line. In this video, I'm breaking down the real reasons carry-on bags are being flagged in 2026, why delays are happening more often, and what you can do to make sure your bag doesn't become the problem, or slow down everyone behind you. If you want smooth boarding, faster embarkation, and zero surprises at the terminal, this is what you need to know. Let's get into it. Number 1. Weight limits are now being enforced on carry-ons, not just size. This one catches people completely off guard because there's no big sign at the terminal and no obvious scale sitting there warning you. Your bag can fit perfectly in the size guide, slide right under your arm, and still get you pulled aside. What's happening in 2026 is that port staff and security are paying much closer attention to how heavy a carry-on looks, not just how big it is. If a bag is clearly overpacked, sagging, or difficult to lift safely, it can be flagged on the spot. This isn't about punishing passengers, it's about injury risk and safety at the gangway, especially during busy embarkation windows. And here's the part most cruisers don't realize. Once your bag is flagged for weight, it's no longer treated as a carry-on problem, it becomes a boarding delay problem. You may be asked to repack, redistribute items, or have the bag checked, which means waiting while everyone else keeps moving. This is why people are so confused when they say, "But it fit last time." Yes, it fit. But in 2026, how heavy it is matters just as much as how big it is. Carry-ons that look like full suitcases are now one of the fastest ways to slow yourself down before you even step on the ship. Number 2. Powdery items are now one of the biggest reasons carry-on bags get pulled aside. This is one people almost never expect because nothing about these items feels suspicious. Protein powder, collagen, pre-workout, baby formula, powdered supplements, even some medical powders. All of these are triggering secondary screening far more often in 2026. The issue isn't that they're banned, it's that large, loose, or unlabeled powders are hard to identify quickly. When security can't immediately tell what a powder is, your bag gets stopped. That means opening it, testing it, asking questions, and slowing everything down. Not just for you, but for the line behind you. And here's where cruisers get caught out. These powders are often packed right at the top of a carry-on for easy access. So when the bag is opened, that's the first thing security sees, and the inspection goes deeper from there. Even completely harmless items can turn into a delay if they're in big containers, transferred into Ziploc bags, or missing original labels. International sailings are especially strict because biosecurity and customs rules come into play as well. If your carry-on has a lot of powdery items in it, your bag isn't just being checked. It's being flagged as needing extra time, and that's exactly what slows boarding. Number 3. Bags packed with multiple electronics are being flagged for battery risk, not security. This one surprises people because it has nothing to do with theft or prohibited items. It's about battery density. Cruise security is paying much closer attention to how many electronic devices, and more importantly, how many lithium batteries are packed into a single carry-on. Phones, tablets, laptops, cameras, power banks, chargers, earbuds, smartwatches. When all of that is crammed into one bag, it raises a safety flag. From the outside, these bags look heavy, overpacked, and unusually dense. That alone is enough to trigger inspection. Once the bag is opened, security may need to visually check each device, confirm battery types, or ask you to redistribute items. And this is where delays happen. It's not one item, it's the combination. Cruise lines are extremely cautious about fire risk on board, and lithium battery incidents at sea are taken far more seriously than on land. So when a carry-on looks like it's carrying an entire tech setup, it's treated differently. If your carry-on feels like a mobile charging station, it's far more likely to be stopped. even if every single item inside is technically allowed. Before we move on, if you're getting any value from this so far, please give the video a like. It's completely free, it takes a second, and it really helps the channel reach other cruisers who don't want to get delayed at the terminal. Alright, let's keep going. Number 4. High-capacity power banks are being confiscated at cruise ports. This one is catching people out because airline rules and cruise rules are no longer lining up. A power bank that was perfectly fine on your flight can still be stopped before you ever step onto the ship. Cruise lines set their own watt-hour limits for portable chargers, and in 2026, those limits are being enforced much more strictly at the terminal. If a power bank looks oversized, has an unclear label, or exceeds the cruise line's limit, it can be confiscated on the spot. And here's the frustrating part. Port staff often don't have the ability to store or return these items later. That means, once it's taken, it's gone. Even passengers who cruise regularly are being caught by this because older power banks or off-brand models don't always list watt-hours clearly. If security can't confirm what it is quickly, they err on the side of safety. If you rely on a large power bank for excursions or sea days, this is one of the easiest ways to lose it before your cruise even starts. Number 5. Cruise ports apply their own liquid rules, and they don't have to match airport rules. This is where a lot of confusion and delays come from. Passengers assume that if something made it through airport security, it's automatically fine at the cruise terminal. But cruise ports are not bound by TSA or airline liquid rules, and in 2026, some terminals are enforcing their own limits much more aggressively. Alcohol, specialty drinks, large toiletries, bottled sauces, oils, even some medical or wellness liquids, items that were never questioned before, are now being stopped for inspection. And unlike at the airport, there isn't always a clear, posted rule explaining why. What makes this worse is timing. Cruise liquid checks often happen right as boarding is ramping up, when lines are long and patience is thin. So even a quick question about a liquid can turn into a full bag search. International sailings are especially strict because customs and biosecurity rules can apply before you even board the ship. So when people say, "But this was fine at the airport," they're not wrong. They're just dealing with a completely different rule set. Number 6. Alcohol packed in carry-ons is being flagged faster than alcohol in checked bags. This surprises a lot of cruisers because they assume carry-on means quicker and easier. In reality, alcohol in carry-ons now draws immediate attention at the terminal. Cruise lines want alcohol declared, logged, and in many cases held until the end of the cruise. When it's buried inside a carry-on, security has to stop the bag, confirm what it is, and decide whether it needs to be tagged or temporarily confiscated. That's why people are getting delayed even when they're within the cruise line's allowance. And here's the mistake many people make. They try to hide it between clothes or wrap it carefully to protect it, which makes it even harder for security to see quickly. That turns a simple check into a longer inspection. Checked luggage is processed differently and more systematically. Carry-ons, on the other hand, are expected to move fast, and alcohol slows that process down immediately. If you're bringing alcohol on board, where you pack it matters just as much as how much you bring. Number 7. Medical items without clear labeling are slowing boarding more than people expect. This is a sensitive one, because the items themselves are usually allowed. The problem is how they're packed. Loose pills, mixed containers, unmarked bottles, or medical devices without any identifying information can trigger extra screening. Security isn't trying to question your medical needs, they just need to quickly confirm what they're looking at. In 2026, that confirmation step is taking longer. When medications are removed from original packaging or combined into daily pill boxes without labels, security often has to pause, ask questions, or visually inspect everything. That slows you down at the worst possible moment, right when boarding lines are moving. International cruises are especially strict because of customs and biosecurity requirements. Even over-the-counter medications can be flagged if they're unidentifiable. Nothing here is about denying access to medication. It's about visibility and clarity. The easier it is for security to immediately understand what's in your bag, the faster you'll get through. Number 8. Food in carry-ons is being screened much more aggressively. This one surprises cruisers because it used to be incredibly relaxed. In 2026, homemade food, unpackaged snacks, fruit, meats, dairy, and even some sealed items are triggering bag checks more often, especially on international sailings. Biosecurity rules don't start after the cruise. They start before you board. When security can't quickly tell where food came from or how it's packaged, they have to stop the bag. That can mean questions, inspection, or disposal, all while the boarding line waits. Even snacks meant for kids, medical diets, or long travel days can cause delays if they're loose or homemade. And because food is often packed right on top for easy access, it's usually the first thing security sees when a bag is opened. What used to slide through is now being treated cautiously, because one missed item can cause issues at international ports later in the voyage. So even if food isn't banned, how it's packed and presented matters more than ever. Number 9. Oversized backpacks are being treated like luggage, not carry-ons. This is catching a lot of people out, especially cruisers who don't use traditional suitcases. Large hiking backpacks, expandable backpacks, camera backpacks, and travel packs might technically meet size limits when they're not full. But once they're packed out, they look like luggage. And that's what security responds to. At busy terminals, staff are making quick visual judgments. If a backpack looks bulky, heavy, or difficult to manage safely at the gangway, it can be reclassified on the spot. That means being told it has to go into checked luggage, even if you plan to keep it with you. And when that happens, the delay isn't small. You're suddenly repacking essentials, moving items around, or waiting for the bag to be tagged and redirected. This is why people feel blindsided. They'll say, "But it's just a backpack." Security sees something different. They see a lifting and safety issue. If your backpack looks more like a suitcase than a day pack, it's far more likely to slow you down before you ever board. Number 10. Small, sharp items that used to be fine are now being flagged more often. This one frustrates a lot of repeat cruisers because enforcement is inconsistent until suddenly it isn't. Nail scissors, grooming tools, small craft scissors, corkscrews, pocket tools, sewing kits, and similar items are being stopped more frequently at cruise terminals in 2026. These are things many people have carried on board for years without issue. What's changed isn't the item itself. It's how strictly terminals are applying safety guidelines. If an item looks sharp, pointed, or multi-purpose, it can trigger inspection. And once a bag is opened, security tends to look more closely at everything else inside. That's why people say, they never cared before. They're not wrong, but past experience no longer predicts current enforcement. If it could reasonably be used as a sharp object, it's now much more likely to slow your boarding, even if it's small and packed deep in your bag. Number 11. Your carry-on may be flagged by the port, not the cruise line. This is the part most cruisers don't realize, and it explains a lot of the confusion. In 2026, cruise lines are working far more closely with port authorities, terminal security, and local regulators. That means the person stopping your bag may not be enforcing a cruise line rule at all. They may be following a port-level safety or biosecurity requirement. This is why rules can feel inconsistent from one cruise to the next, even on the same ship. Different ports have different thresholds, different priorities, and different enforcement styles. So when someone says, "But this was allowed on my last cruise," they may be comparing two completely different security environments. Once a bag is flagged by the port, the cruise line often has very little flexibility. The decision has already been made before you ever reach the gangway. That's why these delays feel sudden and unexplained, because the rule you're breaking might not be written anywhere you can see. Number 12. One flagged carry-on can slow down boarding for everyone behind you. This is where enforcement feels harsher than it used to, and it's not personal. When your carry-on gets flagged, you're pulled aside, and that pause ripples backward through the line. At busy terminals, even a short inspection can create a bottleneck, and ports are under pressure to keep embarkation moving. That's why staff act quickly and decisively now. If something looks like it's going to take time to sort out, they don't debate it, they stop it. Some terminals are even tracking repeated slowdowns during boarding windows, which is one reason enforcement feels less forgiving in 2026. It's not about catching people out, it's about preventing backups that delay sailing schedules. So when a bag is flagged, it's not just about what's inside, it's about time. And time is the one thing ports don't have during embarkation. Number 13. It fit last cruise is no longer a valid defense. This is one of the hardest adjustments for repeat cruisers. People rely on past experience. If a bag worked in 2024 or 2025, they assume it will work again. But in 2026, that logic is failing more often than not. The reason is simple. The rules haven't always changed, the enforcement has. Ports are stricter, safety thresholds are lower, and tolerance for anything that slows boarding is gone. Staff aren't looking at what you got away with before. They're looking at what keeps things moving right now. That's why so many experienced cruisers are being caught off guard. They didn't pack wrong. They packed for an older version of cruising. If you board expecting flexibility based on past cruises, you're far more likely to be delayed, even if nothing in your bag is technically banned. Number 14. The biggest mistake is packing your carry-on like it's a full suitcase. This is the root of almost every delay we've talked about. In 2026, carry-ons are expected to move fast, lift easily, and be visually simple. When a bag is overpacked, heavy, stuffed with electronics, powders, food, liquids, and random just-in-case items, it stops being a carry-on and starts being a problem. Security doesn't see individual items. They see risk, weight, and time. That's why bags that technically follow the rules still get flagged. It's not one thing. It's the combination. Too heavy, too dense, too complicated. The smoothest boarding happens when your carry-on has only true essentials. Everything else belongs in checked luggage, even if it feels inconvenient. If you want to avoid delays in 2026, this is the mindset shift that matters most. Your carry-on isn't there to replace your suitcase. It's there to get you on board quickly. Before you go, there are 50+ things every cruiser should know before their next cruise, and it's honestly a must-watch before you sail. If this video helped you, feel free to add it to your playlist or send it to a friend who's cruising soon. It can save them time, stress, and a very frustrating delay at the terminal. Thanks for watching, and enjoy your cruise.